Jack. I've been listening to your Lusitana album of improvised solo guitar pieces. Some of them are fully improvised, but a lot of them aren't. They've got chord progressions that are composed. So he wants to ask, what's your approach? How do you recommend learning to improvise in the style of chordal line lead playing? So thanks very much, Jacob. Thanks for asking about that. It's something I've wanted to talk about for a while, actually. So first of all, just to give you guys an idea of what the kind of musical environment is all about for this, I'll just check. Okay, kind of apologise in advance for my potentially very rusty playing, because I never really play classical guitar anymore, and I'm always just using a pick. But the basic idea of this album, there's a few different ingredients to it. First of all, what I was doing was on the acoustic guitar, just playing like a drone. So I was, very influenced by Indian music already, but I was doing a drone and then doing this kind of very lyrical lead playing over the top. I hope that this sounds okay with the microphone. So this kind of thing, what I'm doing actually is I'm letting a lot of open strings ring out. So if I do something like and then slide, then you can kind of still hear the top strings ringing out and the low A string, and a lot of sliding, because with nylon strings you can do this sliding technique and you don't get the kind of scratch. On the lower strings you get more of a scratch. So that's kind of the aesthetic of just the lead style, the melodic, and kind of plucking with the fingers, not doing proper classical technique like never really got very good at that. The sort of two fingers, doing that kind of. Never really got very good at that because it just didn't feel like I was going to express myself the way I wanted to with that. So it's much more of a kind of legato and sliding things around. Not legato in the sense of how people do like that kind of thing. Much more about having little things that are. It's all about the fluid. The fluid contrast and using slides, and you've always got to have these notes that are ringing out. And contrasting as well a lot of the tonal things, so using the fingers and then using the thumb. Using the thumb like that to get a really kind of. See that kind of thing when you push down into the instrument with the thumb. So it's like when you're doing a down pick with the plectrum, you kind of lean into the guitar, doing that kind of thing with the thumb. And a lot of that was actually really inspired by the Alifaka Toure is the style of guitar playing from Mali, the Malian blues, because they would do a lot of stuff. They'd use these kind of scales that is like a blues scale, but instead of the flat third, it uses a second. Got a real buzz on one of these notes. And they like to use that scale, and that's what we would call rag sarang in North Indian classical music. And they do this kind of thing, they pluck the lower strings with their thumb, and then with one finger they often again, it's like never really learned that style properly, but I kind of like the feeling of playing around with that. Sometimes you kind of alternating between the thumb and the index finger. And there's a lot of just little kind of twiddly things. So that's the kind of Alifaka Toure style, just a little bit of it. I'm not really doing it justice, but I was really inspired by that. So a lot of the lead playing is more of that nature, and then other tracks on there are just fully improvised, using a pick, and maybe doing different kind of modal scales, like so this scale is that's Rag Vachispati, which is not really heard very often in North Indian music. It's more of a Carnatic scale. It's like the Lydian scale, like with Rag Yaman. It's got the Sa Re Ga and the Tivra Ma, then the Kormal Ni. So I like to use scales like that, and that kind of playing. I think of it as it's like a softer version of McLaughlin style with the pick. So these kind of things, that's quite McLaughlin-esque with the fast alternate picking and just the way that you juggle around the notes. So it's not so much like it's not so much linear scale playing where you're just going straight up or doing arpeggiated. It doesn't even have like arpeggio things. It's all about little kind of nuances and twists and turns. And trying to change direction quite a lot in the line. So it's kind of quite difficult stuff to play, and it's quite idiosyncratic. It took me a long time just to kind of build that up. But you have to get to know these scales. I always try to play it in a few different ways, so I might play it like that, or so try to move around the boxes in lots of different ways. So there's no real shortcut to that. There's a mode of the melodic minor scale. So learning about modes. And then you have to really develop your own way of improvising with that. But that's the best way I can explain that type of improvisation, where it's not so linear. It's all about different little combinations. But it's a softer style than the McLaughlin style. I mean, McLaughlin's one of my biggest influences, but I'm kind of mixing in a bit more. There's a bit more sliding and legato kind of things mixed in there as well. They're quite subtle because there is a lot of picking. But it's trying to get something that's got that kind of, it's got a kind of atmospheric sound and has more of an ambience. So McLaughlin tends to be a bit heavy-handed. I mean, he's a much better picker than me, so he can really pick everything, whereas I can't quite pick all of those exchanges at that speed, or at least it doesn't come to me naturally. It feels more natural to me to use some of those softer edges here and there.